Cyril Ramaphosa says traditional leaders have a huge role to play in ensuring a free political space for campaign activities ahead of the elections. He's called on them to welcome parties when they campaign in their areas. However, we have seen some traditional leaders brandishing their colors publicly. Does this make up for conflict of interest? Let's talk about this. We're joined by Thovhele Nthumeni Masia, who's a spokesperson of the VhaVenda Kingdom. Also joining us is Eastern Cape House of Traditional Leaders Chairperson, Nkosi Mpumalanga Gwadiso, as well as ANC MP Dr. Mathole Motshekga. Good to have you, gentlemen, and thank you very much for coming on and being with us this evening for this conversation. Is there a conflict of interest, Dr. Mathole Motshekga, when a traditional leader wears party colors and promotes a particular party or a particular candidate?
There is certainly a great conflict of interest. And this matter was addressed when the ruling party facilitated the establishment of the Congress of Traditional Leaders, saying that traditional leaders are leaders of their communities as a whole, but communities have people who have different political persuasions. They can be ANC, PSC, EFF, and so on and so on. And therefore, if a traditional leader is going to represent one party, that traditional leader is going to divide his own community and therefore negative the great, the noble idea of building a socially cohesive nation.
If so, then why have we seen chiefs, kings, even in the ANC, playing a partisan role in favoring the ANC or favoring a particular candidate?
You see, the problem now is that we all prioritize what we can gain from a political system and forget that what is important is the unity of our communities, which unity must form the building block of national unity. But if you are going to find that in a community led by traditional leaders, there are 5 political parties contesting for space, and then the senior traditional leader chooses one party openly, that is going to create problems in the long run.
Gwadiso, is there a conflict of interest in your view when traditional leaders wear party colors, brandish their T-shirts, even stand on stages and say, "I'm back home and this is my home," at a particular party campaign?
Good evening to you at the studio, and good evening to everybody that is listening. Indeed, there is a conflict of interest, just like Honorable Mathole Motshekga is putting it. Remember that as a traditional leader, you are the father of all members of your community. Remember that you are at that position to deal with the disputes of whatever nature that come from your community. Whether it is the disputes of organizations within your community, whether it is also society, the society organizations. But once you appear to be a partisan, or else you are seen to be favoring a particular party or organization, then it becomes a problem. And by nature, when a dispute comes before you, to adjudicate, you will have a problem. And for you to think you are going to recuse yourself, it will be a problem because you are the last hope for those people. Therefore, indeed, it is a conflict of interest. But I can say further that these things that you see, it's basically a question of those traditional leaders not really looking into it deeply, and also the hunger that is there within traditional leadership. Some, they see that they are going to get some benefits if they do this and all that. And so that is the situation. Otherwise, it is a conflict of interest.
Yeah, that's exactly where I wanted to come to. Do you think that traditional leaders, chiefs, have got an incentive to support particular political parties based on the fact that they are funded by, for example, their incumbent and their lifestyle, their homes, their cars, and so on and so forth, and therefore they feel a need to maintain the status quo?
Well, it will be that situation because they feel that they are being supported by this. They forget that they are leaders of all community members. They are one-sided in their look at issues.
But the support of traditional leaders should not depend on support for one or the other party. It is a support that must be based on the law, so that whether you have supported this or that one, your support from government remains the same.
Yeah, indeed, in principle. Do we have, though, enough safeguards for that? I'll come back to you, Dr. Motshekga. But, Bomolauzi, let's bring you in here. Does our constitution sufficiently have provisions to prohibit traditional leaders from behaving in such a, because they do. I mean, we've already established that it's a conflict of interest, but they do behave in such a manner.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening to you. Good evening to the viewers. I'm Thovhele Masia. But this is my clan name. Yes. Let me just raise something a bit different from what my colleagues are saying there. Whether there's a conflict of interest. I'm not so sure whether to call it conflict of interest, but you see, it would be so if we were living in a very normal society. Everything that we see around us, it's a product of politics. Traditional leaders are worried about the land that has been taken from them, the suffering of their people, and so on. And they can't stand aside and say we don't get involved in politics, because the taking of the land from black people by whites was a product of a political process. And we cannot at some point say we'll just sit there and watch the game playing when we know that there's a lot at stake. People don't have food, they're hungry, and so forth and so on. And it will be irresponsible of us as traditional leaders to stand aside and say, let politics play, we'll watch. What would be a problem, as far as I'm concerned, is when you are a traditional leader and you have got your own preference, and you treat people differently because you believe in this and that organization. You would have to rise above that. Much as you belong to a political party, much as you would hold a flag of a certain political organization, as long as that does not have a negative impact on your subjects and you respect them equally, you interact with them equally, you don't suppress others because they don't believe in what you believe in.
How do you how do you escape that dilemma of being co-opted and find yourself in a situation where you've got to be co-opted into interests of a particular political authority, or be it a political opposition? So as a traditional leader, being co-opted to push policy positions, right, for example, of a particular political formation?
You would have to make sure that when you are involved, even when you are co-opted or absorbed into the structures of that organization, you would not have to forget that you are a traditional first before you are a part of that organization. It means that when you are there, you would make sure that interests of traditional leaders are taken care of. If you are not involved, if you are far, decisions of a political nature about you and your people are going to be taken, and they are going to bind you. So it's quite difficult for you to, if you stay away from politics, political decisions are going to be taken, and they are going to bind you. Yeah. And this whole thing about just saving the government of the day, even if crooks take power, if these people take power and rob off your land, and you just say, we'll just be there, and it will be very irresponsible. If you check the history of politics, you will come to acknowledge the fact that traditional leaders have been at the forefront of change. Yes. Now that we are at a certain point, and you start saying, no, they don't need to be seen next to politics, I think it will be very unfair.
All right, we'll take that further. Jose Masia with us, speaking for the VhaVenda Kingdom. Also joining us, Eastern Cape House of Traditional Leaders, Chairperson Nkosi Mpumalanga Gwadiso, and ANC MP Dr. Mathole Motshekga. Dr. Motshekga, kings, chiefs can't stay away. They can't afford to stay away. They should be political activists. They should be coming and participating directly with the political processes. Otherwise, they'll end up having to face binding decisions that they were never a part of.
Traditional leaders must become developmental activists, not political activists, because political activism leads to partisanship and partiality, and the people that they lead will be divided by impartiality and partisanship. But more importantly, traditional leaders have a spiritual role to play, and most of them these days don't even understand the institution, because the institution has spiritual roots. For instance, traditional leaders believed that there is a queen of heaven who is a god of everybody, and the kings are representatives of that queen of heaven, who is the mother of the king of heaven called Isilo Samabandla, Thovhele Yamashako, Kumukane, Mambo Wedenga, Dawedona. They have moved from that characterization of the institution. And that's why now our communities are falling apart. There is a moral degeneration, deepening moral degeneration, social ills, because the traditional leaders are not playing this spiritual role which enhances national unity and promotes a value system. I believe certainly that political leaders must relate to government institutions through development partnerships. And if they participate in that fashion, there will be no basis for any politician to co-opt them and use them, like the British and the Dutch co-opted our traditional leaders and made them the agents of colonialism and imperialism.
Yeah.
We don't want such an institution which is an agent of secular forces who sometimes get so corrupt, and now the traditional leaders will be associated with corruption, and how will they lead and guide our communities, especially young people, if they themselves are corrupt or they are associated with corruption?
Yeah. So what happens though when the subjects themselves feel that the chiefs, if they stay away from the political environment or they don't push back against the political environment, they have been co-opted, they are now part of the establishment? Please unmute there for us if you can. All right, we'll come back to you in a moment. While you try and figure out that unmuting. Jose, Masia, developmental activists, that's what has come up. Developmental activists, more than being political, because once you become political, you even lose the spiritual meaning of the role that you're supposed to play. Because now you are going to political party meetings, you're discussing things that have got to do with your political party, more than playing your role as a spiritual leader.
Yeah, thanks. I don't see that to be contradictory. And what Dr. Motshekga is saying is true, but under normal circumstances. You would appreciate the fact that one of our responsibilities as traditional leaders is to protect the poor, make sure that they don't sleep hungry, make sure that they enjoy their lives in our communities, the social cohesion, there are no social ills. That has always been the responsibility of traditional leaders. Now, for them to get food, for them to be employed, you need these subjects need to live in a situation where if there's food, if there's all these things that we are worried about, if they're well taken care of, obviously there will be no need for us to get more involved in politics. But because people are hungry, there are social ills, and we are forced by circumstances to start playing a role in the politics of the country. If everything was fine, if we didn't have these things that we are worried about, then there will be no need. Then we'll be focused on what we're supposed to do. Part of what we must do as traditional leaders is to preserve our culture and heritage. But because of the situation that we find ourselves in today, I can tell you, as a traditional leader, when people are hungry, they come to me. If the roads are not good, they come to us. If they don't have employment, they come to us because they've got hope in us. Now, you can't just, as a traditional leader, say, that's not our space. So you need to start getting involved in influencing the direction of the country, in influencing the political situation in the country.
And
so that those things that worry them.
You're arguing that the only way to get involved in that space is to be political, is to actually be aligned to a political formation.
Not necessarily. By the way, traditional leaders, even by law, are allowed to be a part of any political party. But I'm saying that when you participate as a traditional leader in this or that political party, it will be by your own choice. But that does not force your subjects to follow you. If I believe in the ideals of this party, it does not mean everybody else that's under me must follow me. But I participate in a political party in the hope that that political party will resolve the problems of my people. I must be part of that process.
Yeah. Nkosi, Gwadiso, let's bring you in here. I hope your mic is now open. I mean, what about that view that says if you stay, fold your arms and not participate in the political process, you are part of the establishment, and your subjects are going to say, well, you are also at the forefront of the oppression of the people and the non-delivery of services. Yeah, we don't have that mic here. It's still muted, unfortunately. We are still struggling to get you on that mic.
Can I come in? Can I come in?
Yes. Dr. Mathole,
today we have a problem of social distance between the leadership and the people. And it's even worse in the case of traditional leaders. They participate in the district houses of traditional leaders, provincial houses, national house. And in their individual capacities, they are also members of parliament. And the result is that the communities are left alone and they join protest groupings. Now even some structures called community property associations have moved in. There is chaos in the traditional communities because the traditional leaders have lost sight of their main objective. I think that their main objective is to promote spiritual unity of the people, promote national unity, and make sure that they partner with municipalities, provincial and national government for the delivery of services. You don't have to be a member of a political party as a traditional leader in order to address the problems of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Participate as a development activist, work with government, regardless of which party is in power. Because right now people are talking about a coalition government. You find that there are 5 parties in a municipality who don't even agree amongst themselves. And you come as a traditional leader, you are part of the divisions in that municipality. And mind you, traditional leaders sit ex officio in the municipalities. If they sit there and side with one party, they are going to be insulted by the other parties. They are going to lose respect of the parties. So I'm saying in short that it is not helpful that traditional leaders must become party political activists. They must become developmental activists. They must provide spiritual guidance to their people. They must promote local and national unity.
All right, let's try again. So hopefully you can unmute. Are you there? No, definitely not there. We'll try and sort you out in just a moment. Jose Masia, active politics would lead to what, for example, we're hearing the president talking about, that there have been some traditional leaders who have not been providing free political space for all parties to come in a particular area, because that particular leader would be affiliated to a particular political party. These things bring chaos. Even what Dr. Motshekga is saying there, fighting around property associations, there is mudslinging that's back and forth, and creates that kind of disrespect for the house and the authority of traditional leadership.
That is quite unfortunate. I think it is unfair for any traditional leader to refuse entry of other political parties that do not toe the line with the party that he belongs to. All that it requires, it's maturity. That as much as I'm a traditional leader and I believe in the politics of A, B, or C, I mustn't stop other parties from mobilizing in the area that I'm in control of. That is wrong. I mean, we have got a lot of traditional leaders who, in every community there are many parties, but it depends on the extent to which you are tolerant. So I can say that I would condemn any traditional leader who would avoid or prevent other political parties that wear different colors with him to campaign in their localities. That is to be condemned. Dr. Motshekga spoke about participation in houses of traditional leaders and in municipalities. I can tell you that senior traditional leaders are just observers in municipalities. They don't have a role. All that they do is
why are they just observers?
We are still struggling to find an answer even today. That they are not active. They don't participate in the decision making body, but the law allows them to be part of such. So there's little influence they have in the running, in what happens in their own localities. But we hope that is going to change, and they are going to take active interest. But even with houses, traditional leaders participate in local houses, in provincial houses, national houses. But you would need to check the extent to which they influence the direction of things as far as issues of traditional leadership is concerned. Some of the laws that are brought before us are just finalized. All that we do is just to respond, and it's quite a problem. So it will be difficult for us to say that as traditional leaders, then we must just wait for people to do what they think they should do, and we just have to respond. It can't work that way. But under normal circumstances, like I said, in a normal society where we don't have all these kind of problems that we are talking about, we can go back and just sit in our royal cross and allow politics to run. But for now, we still have problems, some of which were there before 1994. Issues of land. We're still talking about land even today. And you tell traditional leaders, stay away from politics. When their land was taken, it's just, it may not be very fair. So that's why we get to participate. When people travel us where we live, they talk about issues that need the attention of councillors, of politicians. They come to us. We stay with them in our villages. And they need answers. You are not always going to say, no, we will raise it. At times you must stand up and be part of these organizations and influence the direction and be part of solving the problems of society and not watch.
Good thing that you've got Dr. Motshekga, who's been part of the land debate and the land question. I've engaged him quite extensively on that. Dr. Motshekga, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to give you an opportunity. But Dr. Gwadiso, I'm going to try again. I am really battling with your line. If you can unmute, because I can see it's muted. If you can unmute, we might be able to hear you. Let's give it a try.
Is it muted now?
There you are. We've got you back now. You can weigh in. I think there's a lot that has been said. Maybe you want to just pick up on some of those points.
There's a lot that has been said, but I think Honorable Mathole has captured my points. The traditional leaders, they participate in local houses and provincial houses, like he has put it. When I got muted, I was coming exactly to advance those points. In terms of, for instance, you say you are doing a disservice to your communities if, for instance, they see that you are in a particular party. Some of the people, they will find it difficult coming to you to advance some points because they see that you are taking a particular line with a particular organization. And yet, if, for instance, you are apolitical in terms of physically participating in a particular party, then you have opened for everybody to come and give you whatever points that you must advance to the structures that you are there. You see, the houses of traditional leaders are regulated to interact with government, and government by law is what whatever that is being discussed, whatever law, whatever bill that is being made, it has to be referred to the houses of traditional leaders, because it's a law that is going to affect the communities, whether it is the local house in the municipalities, whether it is the provincial government with provincial house, whether it is national government or national parliament with a national house. There is a regulated relationship for purposes of dealing with the laws and anything, policies that are going to affect communities. Even in terms of the land, the houses, they have a say in terms of what should happen. Like, I agree 100% with Dr. Mathole in the points. Yes, he has captured my points.
Yeah. Dr. Motshekga, let's bring you in there. There seems to be two areas. Jose Masia, I'll give you a chance to wrap up. But
okay.
Dr. Motshekga, there seems to be two areas of contention. One is the fact that traditional leaders in these houses are observers. They end up being observers, and maybe you've got an answer for us as to why. You can weigh in on that question. But two, there's great unhappiness in certain quarters of traditional leadership on the land question and how it is being handled and how they feel it ought to be handled, and that in itself gives them the impetus to want to jump into the political fray.
I think, as our chief from Mpumalanga correctly says, the relationship between government and traditional institutions is regulated. But what comes from Chief Masia is that there's dissatisfaction about the roles. For instance, that they are just ex officio members, they play advisory role. But you see, that should not be a problem, because the president convened a conference to review the constitution. I personally attended. I didn't see traditional leaders participating and voicing these concerns, because I believe that the president wanted that conference so that traditional leaders and other interested parties could indicate which sections of the constitutions should be amended. But they were silent. And when we were busy with the Section 25, the majority of our people live in the rural areas. The traditional leaders could have mobilized their communities to insist that Section 25 be amended so that the land be expropriated without compensation. They failed to do that. Now, if they don't do that, how Chief Masia says they want to address land issues, they want to address poverty, how will they do that without changing the constitution? For instance, right now, the president announced in the National House of Traditional Leaders that he supports the formation of the King's Forum. But traditional leaders don't come out and support the King's Forum, because if you have a King's Forum, you can ensure that all the kings and queens sit with the president at a higher level, higher than the houses of traditional leaders, and raise these issues that Chief Masia is concerned about. So I think there's with respect, a neglect of duty on the part of the traditional leaders, and that is what must be their priority. They shouldn't prioritize membership of political parties. That is going to compromise them, that is going to divide the people, and that is going to cause them respect.
Chief Masia, a final bite.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are not saying that all senior traditional leaders should get involved in politics. But those that are political activists who want to be part of political parties should be free to do so, as long as their membership to this organization is not at the expense of their subjects. That is one thing. And we will all appreciate that those that play an active role, who even go to parliaments, who go to legislatures, recuse themselves for that period. And in that case, you would even find others acting on their behalf in their communities, when they are in parliament, when they are in the legislature. So there is no problem there. You can't, those that feel politically strong to participate should do so without fear of being labeled as a person who is partisan to his people. It's very rare that in our communities that we deal with issues of a political nature, where you have got political parties fighting and so on. It's very rare, but it does happen. But I'm saying that should not preclude those traditional leaders who are activists in their own right from participating in politics. That is what I can say.
Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I'm completely out of time, so that's where we're going to leave it. I appreciate you all and thank you for coming. Chief Masia, spokesperson of the VhaVenda Kingdom. Also, Eastern Cape House of Traditional Leaders Chairperson Nkosi, Mpumalanga, Gwadiso, and MP, Member of Parliament and Member of the ANC, Dr. Mathole Motshekga. 072-110-5584. You sent us this WhatsApp message from Anonymous saying, "Hi Thabo, no one disputes the fact that they belong to a political party, but as such they must not act irresponsibly by showing off their political home. For them to address the issues of the community, they have a structured, or a structure, shall I say, called Contralesa." That's Anonymous. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for that message.